people had more access to internet and more access to these platforms to go out and actually buy products online.
But when all these stores got shut in COVID, they were forced to go online. And
Amazon doing same-day delivery and one-day delivery and those kind of things as well, which really boosts your sales.
But if you are the person who wants to build your brand and want to take, the leap of faith and do some innovation in your brand,
they are continuously putting up new products which are trending in the market, and their sales will keep driving themselves.
I want to give them the feel of what the brand vision is, what the brand stands for. It's not possible in Shopify.
Welcome back to another episode after a very long time,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. And today we are going to talk about something which is very trending and we promised to talk about in the last podcast, which was like a couple of months ago.
I mean, we can't say last because it was the last podcast between the two of us. But I think we did the Starter Lab podcast after that. So technically the one before that. But yes, we did talk about this topic that we promised our audience that we're going to come out with another episode where we purely talk about the e-commerce space. So you start, Ritesh. Why do you think we took this topic? Why do you think we should be talking about it?
I think India being India as well as globally also, after COVID, the number of e-commerce stores that have started off, the activities around e-commerce have picked up quite considerably. And that's why I think this is a good topic that a lot of people would want to understand from us what e-commerce in general mean, as well as they would also be interested in understanding what are all the technologies that comes under e-commerce umbrella. So that's why I think this is a great topic to actually take up. So with that, I think let's talk a bit the way we talk about a bit of history of a tech, and then let's talk where it is gonna go and what's the current status of the tech. So talking about e-commerce, I think it started off with Amazon. I always used to think, what is your take on this?
No, I think e-commerce has existed in its technical term for even before that, because e-commerce, or let's call it electronic commerce, has been around since the 80s, which is before internet or Amazon. So all these ads that we used to get at night when the moms and pops would sit in front of a TV, and on the television you'll see a new product being promoted with multiple numbers rolling, with 20 people sitting on the other end to pick up your phones to take your order if you wish to order the same product and get it delivered. So I would say that was the start of e-commerce at least. But in the sense that we understand e-commerce today, you're correct. That started when I think Amazon came around in about 94 or something like that. Yeah, in the 90s, I think it was 94 if I'm not wrong, is when Amazon came around, and which was put up on the internet, and people could, I think, originally buy books. And about, I think, a year later, there was eBay, which had launched as well. And at the same time, PayPal had come around, allowing the payments to go through, meaning a whole transaction could be completed online now, where you could see a product, buy a product, pay for it, get it delivered, and the whole transaction completes. And I think from that's where it started evolving to its further stages. And I would say in the early 2000s, when broadband started becoming more and more famous and coming to everyone's house, is when people had more access to internet and more access to these platforms to go out and actually buy products online. And it kept growing from there on.
Correct. I think that is also the point, which is the 2000s, is also the point wherein a lot of expansion in mobility devices started off.
Correct.
I mean, Nokia was always there. And eventually, I think iPhones and even Samsung devices, Android devices, were kind of getting picked up. and a lot of broadband also. I mean, we had a faster internet connection after the dial-up, prior to 2000s. That's wherein I think the penetration, the logistical and, the internet penetration was good in 2000. That's wherein I think e-commerce also quite geared up. And you're right, I think what we see now is the internet version of e-commerce, but prior to 90s was the very television oriented e-commerce. And now, I think today's kids won't even, can't even imagine that that's how the e-commerce used to be back then.
That is how it started.
Yeah. So interesting, I think. And I think you're right. The end-to-end e-commerce, which includes, right from the product selection to closing of the payment, that all started off once PayPal was properly established. eBay was there back in the day. I don't know eBay in any form now exists or not.
It still does in the US, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I remember eBay.in used to be there in India back then, and now I don't know if it exists or not.
I don't think eBay India exists anymore. If I'm not wrong, I could be, but I think eBay in general still does exist. And yeah, you're correct. And I think since the phones started coming out, like the iPhone and all these Android devices, I think while talking about eBay was, I think, the first e-commerce to launch its mobile app to bring that mobility into e-commerce, which allowed people to make these purchases from anywhere and brought in portability to the whole space. And I think right about at that time, I think the whole developer community started catching up as well, and Shopify and Magento and such platforms were launched into the market, allowing the developer community to build e-commerce stores on a custom level, I would say, directly for brands. And I think since then, more and more bigger brands, I think the bigger brands got in first by selling in their products online. And I think that the evolution has continued since then. The adaptation to online e-commerce, the adaptation to online payments, I would say, especially in India, if we go about a decade back from now to the early 2010s, is when I don't think a lot of people were too keen on paying online for things and things like that. And I think since then, the whole concept of cash on delivery came out. And that has been a big boom in India and still is. And I would say still a huge chunk of the community is buying products at cash on delivery, because they would trust that more when they see a product coming to their doorstep is when they're paying for it. And I think right about that time, 2014-15 is when social commerce also started picking up, which I think today in 2024 has evolved way too much and has grown to have your end-to-end products listed on a social media platform like Instagram or Facebook and complete a purchase on the platform itself. That was a whole new avenue into the whole e-commerce space. Right. But all in all, I think the evolution has been quite significant. And obviously in 2020, when COVID arrived and more businesses started thinking that being online is very important for them, which probably might not have been previously. So COVID definitely was a big part of the whole evolution of e-commerce as well. So as we see in 2024 today, I think all these different years and all these events have definitely had an impact on what we are seeing and doing with the whole e-commerce space today.
Yeah, you're right. I think you rightly mentioned that, cash on delivery and all that got started off in the early 2000s itself. I think Flipkart was the one who actually brought in the concept of cash on delivery in India, is what I think. In fact, India was a very shy country, or maybe Indians generally used to not trust on, putting in their credit card and debit card information online, just like the way, globally people do. Indians were always, into, giving the cash in hand, and because it's more cash oriented economy. And that's why it prior to Flipkart, it used to, the e-com brands did not succeed that much. But I think when Flipkart actually got in India, they quite modified the Amazon model suited for India, and that's wherein they implemented the cash on delivery as well. And that was the I think explosion point of e-commerce in India. Since then, the general market towards how a market thinks of e-commerce changed. I mean, they started believing in e-commerce. Anyway, product is going to come at home and you're going to pay. I remember in my 20s, I used to order a couple of products from e-commerce, and my dad and mom used to actually say, not trust on that, because hey, who is going to come, and what if the transaction fails? What if somebody, frauds you or something like that? And then the cash on delivery was the thing wherein we used to tell them that kya farak padta hai? I'm going to give cash when I see the product. And that's wherein I think now mom, dad, everyone, orders online, and this is probably just a decade old thing wherein they have, got quite adapted to this e-commerce thing. I think COVID also changed a lot of dynamics around e-commerce, because previously a lot of merchants used to not believe in going online and doing their own e-commerce thing. But when all these stores got shut in COVID, they were forced to go online, and that's wherein they also discovered, okay, this is a new venue wherein we can do business, and this is probably giving us access to unlimited customers, which are now not even capped by geography. That's wherein I think we had a blast in a lot of domains, which includes even edutech was on its roll. I think e-commerce also was going on good. Stock markets was on its all-time high, and I think in COVID people also learned on how to use, I mean, from a consumer side, how to use e-commerce, how to order on e-commerce, how to get delivery of products, everything around it. So I think COVID was a changing point, kind of tipping point for e-commerce. And now if you see, most of the businesses either are online or want to go online.
Absolutely. And I would say there are more and more businesses who are just online as well. Like there are so many brands who don't have a store and don't need to have a store. They say, if we are shipping pan India, people across the country can order our products. Why do we need a store? And if their product does not demand one, then that is absolutely correct, because you save up on so many different kinds of costs. Also, I think while we are talking about e-commerce and the Indian market, we should definitely also be mentioning platforms like Zepto or Blinkit, which I would say is a revolution when it comes down to hardcore e-commerce, is when you're getting your groceries in 10 minutes. Like, because I've spent a lot of years in New Zealand, e-commerce there is very different. Amazon does not exist in New Zealand for starters. Any product you order could take anywhere from 3 days, 4 days to 10 days even to deliver. So when I tell somebody over there that, okay, we can get our groceries delivered in 10 minutes through an e-commerce app, it's shocking for them. So I would say India has really had its own take on e-commerce as well. Just like you said, Flipkart did its own model of Amazon. And I think Zepto and Blinkit have done a completely new model of extremely fast delivery as well. And obviously Amazon doing same day delivery and 1 day delivery and those kind of things as well, which really boosts your sales from being able to sell the products point of view. Because if your logistics are so strong and you can move the products faster, that definitely adds up a whole lot to your offering to the consumers, right? So I think India in that matter has really taken charge in and around COVID. So that's absolutely commendable for the Indian market.
Yeah, I think more or less in India, everything is being sold online. Like from medicines, we have so many apps. I mean, every pharmacy brand has its own app now. Apollo has its own app. Then we have, what is this? Farm Easy is there. And there are so many apps which delivers medicines. Food delivery is going on. I think Zomato, I remember I was working back in the initial, I think 2014 or 15, I was working on an app which was around food discovery, and even a bit. We were thinking of delivery as well, but Zomato at that time was a restaurant discovery app, and Zomato at that time very clearly had a stance of that they will never ever get into food delivery, because it was that difficult back in the day to do the food delivery. And look today, Zomato is like left, right, and center doing food deliveries, even competing with Swiggy, which are focused on to
Purely food delivery, yeah.
I mean, the logistics have changed so much. We have got so advanced and so very localized, and tech has been like the core of expanding markets and expanding businesses as well. Wherein now everything is just happening on apps.
And I think this has very heavily driven the whole employment space for a lot of people as well, because all these delivery guys who are working for these brands like Zomato and Swiggy, they are getting employed and in a way self-employed, because they are not answerable to anybody. They work in their own times which are suitable to them. So I think all in all, I know we've taken a huge stance at all the different avenues and how India's grown. But I think all in all, India's done quite great when it comes to e-commerce in its general sense, and has expanded out to different ways and better ways of doing it. Funny enough, this one time I was talking to one of my friends down in New Zealand for a project, and I mentioned to them that we happen to have an app like Dunzo, which at that point in time is you can order anything, and a person would actually go do that and get it for you. And when I described what that app does, it was ridiculous for them. It's like, does something like that exist? Is like you guys are doing tech and innovation and what sorts of things to that level, because people are not thinking about those things. And I think the Indian market is very, very different, and all in all, India has had its own stance on e-commerce from a lot of different angles when it comes to that. So again, saying the same thing, but it's quite commendable.
Yeah. In fact, what I think is, if you actually think quite deeply, it's always the big boys of the market. They will decide what the masses are going to do. So the moment big boys like Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra, they start deciding on to doing something which eventually gets successful for them, other people starts kind of getting inspired and copying a bit of things and implementing a bit of things. I mean, the big boys does it first. They are the initial adopters of technology and innovation, which is followed with something works for them, which is followed by slightly medium scale businesses, which once it is successful, then it is followed by all the mainstream businesses. And that's wherein I think the part wherein what's going on today in the market and what's going to happen in the next 10 years is something that we should discuss, is what I think. And I think this probably revolves around developing customized experiences or custom e-commerce experiences is something that we should discuss on.
Absolutely. So I think and when we're moving into that, obviously the more and more stores who are wanting to build their own e-commerce solutions, right? Because for a lot of different reasons, I would say one major reason would be because all these stores can have their products listed on different marketplaces, right? If you're into clothing, you can have your products listed on Myntra. If you're in luxury clothing, you can be on things like Tata Click Luxury or Agio Lux and things like that. So all those sort of things are happening. At the same time, all these brands want to have their own e-commerce stores as well. I wouldn't say there's any brand who's purely wanting to have their own store. Everybody wants to be listed on these marketplaces as well, because there's a different kind of audience there set. A customer base is already set over there. But at the same time, I think these brands see a few downsides to that. One would be obviously margins, because they would be paying a certain percentage of their sales to those marketplaces, because obviously how else would the marketplaces survive? At the same time, the sale in its technicality is not theirs, because the sale is happening on the marketplace's platform. So the customer is technically off the marketplace and not the brands. And I think those are a couple of motivation points for these brands to have their own e-commerce stores. It's great that we are talking about that, because that's a whole topic in its own right. Because the first thing would be that how do you get your own e-commerce stores? There's a whole platform driven approach where people build things on Shopify or Squarespace Commerce or Wix Commerce, for example. Or there are other frameworks where people are building a few more custom solutions. So I think that's a whole vast topic in its own. You tell us where would you like to start and how would you like to take it?
So I think let's have a discussion on what all things do people get, who all should go for a marketplace versus who all should go for a standalone e-commerce website for their brand. So I think that is a good starting point. Eventually, we'll also discuss on if somebody should go for a complete customized e-commerce solution. But I think to start off into this direction, let's talk about marketplaces versus frameworks.
Or own e-commerce stores.
Platforms. Platforms.
So, correct. So, I would say the simple answer to that would be that every brand is going to have its own take on what they want to do. Also depends on what kind of products you're selling and what kind of brand you're trying to build. For anybody who's coming into the market new and has a simple product that needs to be listed, they can definitely start with a marketplace. Eventually, depending on sales and what kind of revenue they are making, they can evolve into their own e-commerce store and have their products listed on both those avenues, right? There could be certain products that certain brands that are coming out in the market with a very niched or a particular offering, where it's going to be very important for them to not just sell the product, but at the same time show a lot of the brand value or what they are coming from, what kind of products are they selling, why are they selling it, how, or there could be a particular journey a user needs to take to even buy their products, right? There could be multiple things. This is just one example. And that would be a motivator for any brand to have their own e-commerce store, right? And there are going to be n number of examples like this, because there could be somebody who makes like custom earrings. They could have their whole journey throughout their lifetime on a marketplace if they wanted to. If they're getting good sales, if they picked a particular category and their category is a good category where continuous sales keep coming in, they are continuously putting up new products which are trending in the market, and their sales will keep driving themselves. And what's going to happen is they can spend the whole lifetime of their business on the marketplace. They might not want to build a brand, right? But at the same time, somebody would be that I want to build my own brand around this. That is not possible on these marketplaces. It's there's a lot of limitations when it comes to building your own brand, because you cannot give the users the journey or the experience you're wanting to give around your products. And those are the brands or organizations that are going to want to have their own e-commerce store. And the evolution will come down to having their own e-commerce stores, which can then get down into different topics of, if it's a platform build or it's a custom build and things like that. I think that's my take on that.
So something I don't like is platforms like Shopify, for example. In India, the dynamics and the transactions, the commercials are quite different.
Yes.
In India, as you suggested, that you have a fee that gets deducted from the payment gateway provider, and then Shopify has its own fee cut, right? So I don't know how does it make sense in India to go about using Shopify. So I just want to understand which are the other platforms. Let's discuss on this as well, wherein people can minimize these fees as well, because India is all about value versus money.
Correct. So yeah, I mean that can be answered in a few ways, right? Number one would be that whatever brand we are talking about, what kind of a brand is it, and how much sales or how much revenue are they making? If they're into, say, for example, selling simple t-shirts, the investment required to build a custom website or a custom e-commerce store versus a Shopify e-commerce store is going to be very different. And when it comes to that, their sales might not be that much to actually go about that whole big investment on the custom e-commerce, right? And stores like that can have a Shopify store, and they can let the fee that Shopify cuts and the payment gateways cut, let that go, because again, it's a business decision at the end of the day, because you have to invest that kind of money to build a custom store. At the same time, there could be another brand A who's doing great in sales, who's grown quite a bit. At that point in time, those fees start looking way too much out of your revenue, because again, I would in fact say in the initial days, sometimes you have bigger margins because your business is smaller. But as your business grows, your expenses grow because of your scale and your team size and your production and your things like that. And you can't relatively keep increasing your product price. Your product price kind of has to stay there, right? And that's when your margins start getting smaller and smaller. At that point in time, you're making a certain amount of revenue already. At that point in time, the fees that is going out to say Shopify or any other platform stops making sense for you. And at that stage, you want your own solution, so you don't have to give that fees. And there are a lot of other decisions that come into play as well, right? Your brand has now grown, or your product variance has grown as well. When it comes to Shopify is a simple e-commerce platform which provides a lot of different plugins for you to have different e-commerce features. All of that is fine. But if your product itself is either complex from the head on or becomes complex after one point, Shopify stops supporting that. It's not possible to have an extremely custom product be sold on Shopify, or else it becomes a whole pain on Shopify as well. Because bear in mind, one very important topic when it comes to Shopify costs, it's not just a fee that is going out of your per transaction. There's another fee that you pay to Shopify per month, which can be called your hosting, which is fair enough, you need that. But the higher you go on those plans, they get quite expensive. On top of that, more the plugins you use, their plugins, either the plugins will have a one-time cost, or the plugins themselves also have a monthly cost to have them on your website. So at one stage, you could be on a Shopify store where you're spending in a ballpark of lakh and a half, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs a month just to sustain the website. Right? At that stage, it's ridiculous. No custom website will ever have that kind of monthly cost. For example, like we build websites, we build massive websites, and their hosting costs are a lakh or lakh and a half a year. So you understand the difference that comes at that stage is massive. And that's when you need to understand that the brand has now to evolve into a own custom store. Because the simple product and products becoming complex is one bit, but this cost, when it gets to that range, is quite ridiculous, right? And it's non-sustainable. And no business can actually sustain that kind of cost. And that's when you have to think about a custom store.
Right. In fact, I agree with you. I mean, all the platforms which are offering, custom e-commerce engine, like Shopify, or maybe even WordPress has its own WooCommerce. I think most of them has a cap of what can you build on it. And then it's a general purpose code that is built. It can support you for probably 80% of the needs of the e-commerce, unless and until you are not thinking innovative. The moment you start thinking innovative, you definitely need something which is not Shopify or WooCommerce, or so you'll have to have your own thing. Also, one of the things that I don't really like about not about the platforms is that fine, it is built for masses, but if you are the person who wants to build your brand and want to take the leap of faith and do some innovation in your brand, the sheer technical capabilities of these engines makes you not think of anything innovative. You're always confined with, okay, this is how my store is going to look. It's going to be one button with products. You go there, you have filters around it, that's it ends there. A couple of images around it, that's it ends there. Some typical e-commerce functionality. If I want to design a website, probably a website for example, if I have a business of very high quality textile, wherein I want to showcase the minor details of how the textile was made and what quality of this textile is, the audience that the textile is catering to, I want to give them the feel of what the brand vision is, what the brand stands for. It's not possible in Shopify or WooCommerce for that matter. And even if it is possible, it's going to be hefty, expensive for for a business like that. At the same time, if I go for a customized solution, fine, it's gonna have a huge capital cost initially. It's not going to be like that huge, but it's going to be kind of ROI of 2 years or 3 years. But it is going to be have a very high flexibility. I would have unlimited innovation. I don't have a cap of thinking, oh, this can happen or that can happen or not. Basically, I can experiment around a lot. I can actually bring the technology, the power of technology all onto my e-commerce platform. Take example of Lenskart for that matter. Lenskart has gone all in. They have built their virtual try-ons, wherein you can just look at your webcam and then it'll give you the virtual try-on. And it works nicely. I don't know how much productive that is, but still they have taken the bold step. They have been talked about for that. At the end, it is more around being talked about, right? I think Myntra has also done that. Amazon itself has introduced the AR, wherein if you want to purchase a TV, there is an icon there wherein try it on AR, and then you can just use your phone, position it in your home, and then it will showcase, the sizing of the TV, how it is going to look at your home. I mean, they are able to do it because they have their own thing going on. I mean, it's very difficult to do it on, a ready-made platform. There are plugins, of course, but then those plugins are paid as well, So one of the things that bothers me is the pure mass monopoly that happens around the platforms, which there is no other option for the users to, either sign up for a mass monopoly and give out on all the innovation, or else stick to the innovation, go build something custom for you. I mean, there are risks involved in both of them, but I think if you are a business owner who wants to make a mark in your target audience mind, you should go custom e-commerce. I mean, what is your take on this?
No, absolutely. I mean, again, I'm going to come down to the same point I made earlier in a way. It is going to, in one way or the other, depend on your product. What are you exactly selling? Because a lot of times what happens is your product itself is so complex that something like Shopify cannot support it, or you'll have to do so much to even make it work, right? Then it's not worth the effort, because maybe your initial cost is less, but then your running cost is way too high. It levels out. Also, it depends on, as you said, how bold or what kind of a visionary are you, right? Like we've had clients who have asked us to build certain functionalities for their e-commerce stores, which only a visionary can think about, right? And now that particular functionality cannot be built on Shopify. For example, if that person has an existing Shopify store and now wants to build a feature like that, they'll be limited because of it. And they'll have to either switch to something custom, or at that point in time, not do it till the time they build a new website, right? So people who are visionaries, people who would, if not today, but tomorrow do something interesting or something out of the box, they should be thinking about custom for sure. People who have a complex product, the platform in its sheer existence cannot support it, then you obviously have to go for custom, because it's better to go custom than have a makeshift thing that just kind of works and is half baked. It's like your product is there, but you cannot sell all your variants, or just sell one and then make a phone call to understand what kind of a variant they exactly want and complete the sale. It's like it's not productive enough then. If a piece of tech exists there but doesn't solve your problem but adds more work for you, then it's a waste of a technology. Since technology's existence, we have known that technology is supposed to solve your problems and not increase problems for you. So I think that's my take on that whole debate of custom versus Shopify. But again, it'll be absolutely wrong to say that these platforms should not exist or platforms are not going to be great, because at a lot of times your product is simple, have at it, right? You don't need a custom build. Your initial cost is less, and your ongoing cost would be less as well, because you don't have to then have a whole lot of plugins to actually makeshift a lot of features that you want. And also at times, you're a smaller brand, you're just starting out. So the first step could be that you go into something like Shopify and or any other platform, and then a few years later, depending on revenue and growth of your brand, you move to something like custom. So all these, I think, pathways will very much depend on case by case basis. But I think different kind of platforms exist for different kind of things. It's more important that people are not misguided towards this, because that's, I think, one thing that we have noticed quite a bit in India, I would say, or even globally, not just India. Everywhere we have seen where people have, say, for example, built a Shopify site, and that probably wasn't the right fit for them. Or sometimes even built a custom solution, but not correctly. So let's not just name a platform, but even custom solutions, we've had examples where people have just built a custom site, but then output wasn't the way they wanted it to be. And then the investment was down the drain. So I think that is one bit. I honestly don't have the solution to that, because how can you judge, right? How can you know if you're going the right way or not? But I think that is one thing that really makes a big effect on how things go as well, because the misguidance can, actually guide the brand into a wrong direction from a tech standpoint, because all these brand owners have a vision for their brand, and they know where they want to take the brand and everything, but they don't understand tech. So that's where they rely on agencies or somebody they have hired and things like that. So that's a whole different thing to talk about.
So what I think in a nutshell is, if you are like just starting off, go for a marketplace. All right. I mean, it's a river flowing. You jump into it, you're going to go somewhere. If you have started off and it has been considerable amount of time, and also you care about, being closely connected to your customers, also acquiring the customers in real sense so that you can retarget them and all, then go for typical platform of e-commerce. Use either Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever platform is available. And then if your business has been running quite well, or maybe if you're coming into the market with a disruptive idea in e-commerce, or if you want to experiment around, a couple of really innovative features, then go for a custom e-commerce is what I think the categorization would be, right? All right. So speaking of the custom e-commerce, and we are going gaga about it as well. What all things can we do which comes under the innovative bucket, which can be done in custom e-commerce, which is very difficult to do in, of course not possible in marketplace, but difficult to do in, platforms.
I mean, if you ask a question like that, I think sky's the limit, I would say. In today's day and age, with the kind of technology that exists, you can go into so many different avenues, starting with, say, for example, augmented reality, where if you're giving like whatever product you're selling, let it be a clothing item or an accessory or a piece of furniture or something like that, if you can give the user a real-time experience of the product in their environment through augmented reality, that's one avenue. Again, over the last couple of years, the whole generative AI space has been in the boom. That can be incorporated for multiple different things. Like, you say, for example, you're in the space of selling, say, custom wallpapers, and somebody wants to, be creative with their custom wallpaper, and they maybe feed the website an image along with a small prompt and a few settings, and a completely made to order custom wallpaper gets generated using a few different AI models or a few different large language models, and then the store at the other end actually creates that custom wallpaper for them and sends it to them. That's like, going too far with using the best of the best and actually giving the customer a real custom experience in the real sense of custom. You can use generative models to generate a t-shirt design and have custom t-shirt made to order, one of one kind of limited edition stuff, right? Unique for you. You design, you use something on the website to create a t-shirt design, and then you order 3 of them just for your friend group, for example. And you friends have like one of 3 kind of t-shirts. So that's like, those are really cool options for these brands to have and for the consumers to enjoy. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of more avenues as well.
I mean, you have the app, you click the photo of an empty room that you have, and it's a furniture app. And the app itself design that, okay, this lamp has to be placed here. This bed might look great here. The wall, if it is of red color, this painting might go well with this. And maybe, couple of things, accessories around. And you have, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides around it. And you can try out, what all look is something that would be suitable for your home. And then you have, click, add to cart around everything in the space. And then you have a new look at your home. I mean, who is stopping? I mean, that is all possible in custom e-com.
Exactly. I mean, exactly those kind of features are possible on your custom e-commerce, right? So and then again, as I said at the start, the sky's the limit. Like, you come up with ideas, and I'm sure there's technology that exists to bring that to life. So that's always going to be I'm sure newer and newer features we're going to see. Like, we are out on the internet every day, looking at something new. So, and we're looking at exciting stuff every day. We are building exciting stuff every month. So I think that it's going to keep growing like that.
Yeah. I think even I am excited for the way tech is moving ahead, the way AI is moving ahead, the way we have all these adaptations of AR being done so flawlessly on phones and on web and everything. I think it's going to be a great future to see, which is going to be too much centric around tech specific, especially being passionate about tech. I feel it's a good time to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think and this reminds me, we should absolutely, I mean, I'm sure we cannot talk about it now because it's still not out in the market, but the piece of technology we are building, and you know what I'm talking about, like in a month or so, like in a few months when that's ready, we should actually do an episode on that, showcasing a technology like that, because again, that's one big example for what all we are talking about, right? So that would be a cool episode to actually showcase that that stuff like that is possible on your custom stores. So yeah, but I think I'm super excited about where the space is headed. The way we spoke about the whole history, let's say if we leave out the 80s, if we leave out the telecom, if we even think about it from the 90s when Amazon and things started coming around, I think it's 3 decades and we are here. But I think the advances that are going to come in the next decade are going to surpass the last 3 decades in all formats possible, with all the generative large language model stuff happening around, all the better devices coming out in your hand. Like, look at the iPhones and the latest Android phones that are coming out with the hardware that is being shipped in such a small piece of technology that enables more and more for us tech guys to actually build technology around it, build softwares around it, right? Building cool stuff like iPhones have LiDAR sensor. Why not use that to for different use cases? A lot of furniture brands can take advantages of things like that. So I think the next 10 years are gonna be crazy when it comes to stuff like that.
All right, I think we discussed enough about e-commerce as well as tech this time. And I think it was a great conversation. I think let's just wrap up the podcast now. I think
it's been 45 minutes and then we don't want to talk anymore. So I think it'll be a good time to take a cut, and we probably will do another episode soon and try and be more consistent now.